Final question to all of you, probably a brief answer. We talk a lot about mainstream media. With newspapers shrinking, with the migration to the internet, with our knowledge now of the influence ethnic and community media have on adult readers and watchers, is there anything really like mainstream media anymore?
Well, I think that that question is also, is there anything like a mass media anymore? And I think that people consider mass media and mainstream media often to go hand in hand. I think it's interesting what Sandy said is that ethnic media are looking towards the mainstream and mainstream is looking towards the ethnic media. And where the two meet in between, I think, is what we end up eventually having. I'm not sure how long it's going to last, but I'm also concerned about the web presence. Because there are still a lot of communities in this country that don't have access to technology. And they may, what are they depending on to get their information from? We have native nations in this country that still don't have running water or electricity. And so when their only technology is really radio to reach them, then where do they fit in between these lines of ethnic and mainstream media too? So I mean, I guess my short answer is somewhere in between they will meet.
This is slightly aside. My young niece happens to work for this this advertising firm, and they look at trends, especially internet trends. And I was flipping through this just moments before we came down to the earlier meeting, and before they were talking about Web 2.0, and now they call it social media. And some of the trends that they're seeing in the blogging is that the countries with like very large migrations are the ones that are really using the blogging. It's almost, I mean, I don't have any insight into this yet, but what it does seem to be is like, I find that the ethnic media, while everybody, was waiting to be sanctioned by mainstream media, very quickly, the necessity of other communities gave rise to a media sector that I think took a lot of people by surprise when the immigration, marches came out. I think what is happening also with the internet is that while we're trying to decipher some things here, that there's already a movement going on, and that it is responding to international realities, and for communities that want to stay connected. Is that thing that you're talking about, Sandy, about the local, global thing, It seems to be happening already. And I mean, there were the Philippines, huge, Korea, huge, China, huge. There were like 5 or 6 countries that have almost saturated the use of the blogging medium. And what they are saying, these advertisers are so smart, they're saying that this particular medium will draw advertisers because it will be a way of allowing this media to continue to be free to the user. So there's something going on.
I don't think that's a tangent at all. I think it's very germane. Sandy, final word.
Okay. Well, I just, the media is always quick to pronounce, I've noticed this, the death of things. The death of cities, the death of one fad after another. I remember Lewis Lapham announcing the death of literature. And now the shoe is on our foot, and there is angst that you can cut with a knife. But let me tell you, and think of this for a moment, do you remember the photograph of the Japanese photographer in Rangoon who had a Burmese soldier pointing a gun at him, and he was lying on the ground? He'd been fatally shot, and his hands were raised with a camera, and he was trying to photograph the Buddhist monks. That is the impulse to witness. That is the impulse to give voice. That is not a vanity, I want to vent my opinion. That is a vocation, and I do not see it dying. I see it as strong as ever. Somebody mentioned earlier the we-ness of ethnic media. We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. 1828, Freedom Journal put the template on ethnic media. And then in 2007, August 2nd, Chauncey Bailey was murdered. He was a founder of New American Media. And he was murdered because he was attempting to speak truth to his own community. That can be as dangerous as working in a war zone. And you know what? Ethnic media, mainstream media, community media, journalism schools, professional news organizations, 17 came together to address that social need in an urgent way, modeling after IRE. And the latest story, Oakland Tribune, a lot of other papers, a lot of other news outlets, it was a remarkably inspiring example of what that impulse to witness and that impulse to provide voice drives us to do. So if that's the communal role of news, it ain't dead yet.
Thank you, Sandy. And Christina and Juana so much. We're going to take a brief break and then we're